I'm Paul Edwards. I'm an independently published horror author, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Today, I'm reading Monsters of the Movies magazine, issue number 4 from December 1974, the Werewolf Special. And I thought some of you might enjoy looking through this magazine with me, just in case you don't own your own copy of Monsters of the Movies, issue number 4 from December 1974. And together we can see what kind of vintage monster goodness is in here. Our magazine is out of the protective plastic. We can see now just how gorgeous the cover is. This is a great painting. This magazine, Monsters of the Movies, it only ran for about 10 issues, but they had great covers. Excellent cover paintings on each issue. This is issue number 4, December 1974. The Super Sinister Werewolf Issue. Bonus, Lon Chaney, Father, Son, and Wolfman. That might be a little misleading because Lon Chaney Jr. played the Wolfman, painted here. Lon Chaney Sr. never played a werewolf. He did play monsters, but never a werewolf. So we'll have to see where they're going with that. The greatest fright film stars of all time. Okay. Here's Lon Chaney Sr. in the lost film London After Midnight, playing a vampire. Lon Chaney Jr. This is Bela Lugosi when he had a turn playing the Frankenstein monster in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. But there's Lon Chaney Sr. once again. All right. Let's get it going here. By the way, did you notice Stan Lee presents Monsters of the Movies? Okay, it makes sense that the werewolf issue would start off with the most famous werewolf of all time, the Universal Studios Wolfman. Okay, so Lon Chaney Jr. starred as Lawrence Talbot in The Wolfman in 1941 and all of the sequels. He was the only actor that ever played the Wolfman in the golden age of Hollywood. Superb makeup work here. This is Lon Chaney Jr. with Bela Lugosi playing Bela the Gypsy fortune teller, who was the werewolf who wound up biting him and turning him into the Wolfman. This is an often seen publicity image from when they made Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. It's the same two actors. This is Bela Lugosi playing the Frankenstein monster this time, and Lon Chaney Jr. playing the Wolfman. This scene, though, didn't happen in the movie. There was a big fight between the Frankenstein monster and the Wolfman, but this image is not from that fight. It's from a publicity still that they took when they were promoting the movie. This is also from Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. I love the lab. They're working in the ruined lab. The plan is to drain the life energies from Lawrence Talbot and from the monster, but of course it doesn't go that way. So the first Wolfman film was The Wolfman. The second was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. The third was House of Frankenstein. And this picture here is from House of Frankenstein. And the Wolfman was in that film, but this picture doesn't have the Wolfman in it. It has Boris Karloff, who plays the Mad Doctor. It has the skeleton that's about to be regenerated as Count Dracula. And it has J. Carrol Naish playing Daniel, the quote-unquote hunchbacked assistant. So it is from a Wolfman movie, but I don't know why they didn't show a shot with the Wolfman in it. I can understand wanting to get Karloff in, but there were plenty of scenes that Karloff and Lon Chaney Jr. were in together in that film, so they could have picked one of those. Same thing here. This is from the next film the Wolfman was in, House of Dracula. And once again, they've chosen an image that doesn't have the Wolfman in it. I don't know what they were thinking with that. I mean, when you bill it as your super sinister werewolf issue, you really want to lean into the werewolves, I would think. Pages are sticking. This is a publicity image from House of Frankenstein. There's the Wolfman and the gypsy girl that falls in love with him. All right. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think Khazar was a Marvel Comics character who was the brother or half-brother of, was it Captain Plunder or something? This is in the 60s. So I vaguely remember Khazar, if that's who I'm thinking of. Okay, so we looked at the Universal werewolf, the Wolfman. Now we're looking at some other werewolves of cinema. And it looks like the next up is going to be in the Mexican wrestling films, where there were lots and lots of monsters. This magazine, I have to say, is in great condition for being more than a half century old. These pages are in really good shape. Santo, of course, the greatest of the luchadors. Crazed vampire. I'm not sure how he snuck into the werewolf issue. They had a separate vampire issue. But okay. Yikes. Lon Chaney, Beyond the Wolfman. Okay, so Lon Chaney, when they say Lon Chaney here, they mean Lon Chaney Jr. Lon Chaney actually got to play all four of the big four classic Universal monsters. Dracula, he played in Son of Dracula. The Frankenstein monster, he played in Ghost of Frankenstein. He was the only ever actor to play the Wolfman, at least back in the 40s. And he played the Mummy in The Mummy's Tomb, The Mummy's Ghost, and The Mummy's Curse. So he played all four of the big Universal monsters. He did not play the Invisible Man, but you can't do everything. This is from Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was, in a sense, the last of the Universal monster movies, in the sense that it was the last one where they had their versions of Count Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, and the Wolfman. Right, now we're on to some other things. This is from Undersea Kingdom. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're starting to get to the wild ads. In a way, this was kids' favorite part of the magazine, because you never knew what you were going to get. Okay, karate. Free. Mailed today. You get a free, colorful brochure. Okay, well, what does the brochure tell you? Where your nearest dojo is? Hooded self-defense system. Well, I hold the rank of Shodan Ho, and I'll tell you right now, you don't want to try to learn karate from a brochure or a magazine. You have to join your dojo. Beware the bat people. Sound advice. Whoa. Werewolves are part-time monsters. That's a good point. All right, so these are non-Wolfman werewolves. Now, I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. Mr. Hyde is not a werewolf. It's similar to the idea of a werewolf, but there's nothing mystical about it. It's a scientific formula that makes him into Mr. Hyde. So he's not really a werewolf. Okay, rubber masks were a big thing to be sold out of these kinds of magazines, but also anything that had to do with your favorite horror characters, no matter what the medium was. So for example, here you could order films, 8mm films that you could show at home on a movie projector, because there was no DVDs or VCRs yet in 1974. But there were home movie projectors, and you would usually show vacation films on them. But in this case, you could order a piece of one of your favorite monster movies and show it on your own screen at home. You wouldn't get the whole movie, though. They make a point of warning you. In this case, you get 12 minutes worth of footage. Now, in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, you probably only need 12 minutes worth of footage. That's probably, I mean, if you're 8 years old, that's going to have all the pieces you're looking for. But some of these, it's a little harder to see what pieces they would choose, especially the 1931 Dracula and the 1931 Frankenstein. I'm not sure how they choose which scenes to include in that. Is it just all the ones with the monster and that's it? But if you were a kid, you would take what you could get. Makeup Man, from Schlock to The Exorcist. One of the greatest of all Hollywood special effects makeup artists, Rick Baker, getting a profile here. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Oh, here you can get, I'll make you a master of karate, only 99 cents. Gee, I wonder what happens if something sounds too good to be true. Giant life-size karate practice dummy, 99 cents. I'm sure that's a poster you would put on your door. Conan the Barbarian. The Wolfman of Spain. I really, really like these films. These are the films made by the ultimate fanboy, Jacinto Molina, who went by the stage name of Paul Naschy. Paul Naschy, when he was a kid, he saw Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman in the theater, and it changed his life, literally. He grew up to play a Wolfman of his own in 12 different movies. And it was a little strange, these Hombre Lobo movies. He always played a werewolf named Valdemar Daninsky, but the movies were not in the same continuity. It was like each film was a reboot. And he played lots of other monsters too, but El Hombre Lobo is the one he was known for. There he is getting it. He'll be back in the next movie. This is a different kind of werewolf entirely. This is Andre the Werewolf from The Return of the Vampire. Return of the Vampire is sort of an oddity of these classic horror movies. It has Bela Lugosi playing a vampire, but not Dracula. He's playing a different vampire, Armin Tesla. And his familiar is a werewolf, but although he looks like what we think of as a werewolf, he still has his human intelligence and his ability to speak. When Hammer Studios, the British film company, was revisiting the classic Universal monsters in the late 50s into the 60s and 70s, they took a shot at the werewolf movie with The Curse of the Werewolf, starring Oliver Reed. And you'll notice in The Curse of the Werewolf, there's a very ripped shirt, almost like you would expect on The Incredible Hulk. When they did the 2010 remake of The Wolfman, they actually used this look, the look from Curse of the Werewolf, the look that Oliver Reed had with the tattered shirt. And it looked great, I thought. Okay. It's hard to even remember this now. But before 1977, when Star Wars came out, the science fiction property that was everywhere was Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes was selling posters, action figures, puzzles, lunchboxes, ships, even though that didn't make sense in connection with the movies. Just tons of Planet of the Apes merchandise. There was tons of it all through the 70s until Star Wars came out in 1977, and everyone just forgot all about Planet of the Apes, and Star Wars became the reigning champion. But so in these magazines, this is 1974, it's no surprise that there's Planet of the Apes goodies for sale here. You can also order some dinosaur models. I actually had both of these, the Allosaurus and the Pteranodon. In fact, they're still in my basement somewhere. Back issues of Marvel Action and Monster Mags. Yeah. Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. It's a good movie. The title is deceptive, though. You think you're getting, like, the Frankenstein monster and he's fighting some sort of a monster from hell? No. No. When they say Frankenstein here, they mean Dr. Frankenstein. So Frankenstein, played by Peter Cushing, and the monster from hell is the monster that Dr. Frankenstein creates. Peter Cushing is so evil as Dr. Frankenstein. The big theme of the Hammer Frankenstein films was that Dr. Frankenstein was the real monster. But the creature that he created is pretty gruesome. A couple of pages of horror comics were good ways to flesh out the page count of magazines like this. Lon Chaney, sire to a dynasty of terror. Well, this is Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces. He's playing the Phantom of the Opera here. Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame here. He never wanted his son, Creighton, to become an actor. So only after Lon Chaney Sr. died did Lon Chaney Jr. become an actor. And the studio forced him to use the name Lon Chaney Jr. It wasn't his real name. London After Midnight, Lon Chaney Sr.'s most famous lost film. You can learn Kung Fu and Karate. You noticing a theme here? Impossible? Not for the super bodybuilding system. Wow. And it's free? Really? Rush me those free, colorful brochures today. Yeah, Oh, and you should check off which body parts you want to improve. Do you want to improve your arms, your chest, your back, your shoulders, your legs, your abdomen? Why not check them all? Yeah. That's just to get a brochure. In other words, it's to get you on a mailing list for something. I wonder what they were ultimately selling you, though. I mean, it's one thing if they were just selling you, exercise instructions on a few printed pages or something. There's no harm in that, I guess. But if they were selling some sort of a nutritional supplement or something, I wonder exactly what it was. I had a bunch of these. The Spider-Mobile. I vaguely remember that at one point Spider-Man in the comics had a Spider-Mobile and it was a fiasco. That was going way back though. Oh, Fear No Man with Kung Fu. Huh. And you can get a power wristband. Wow. Play guitar in 7 days. Mm-hmm. Oh, build your weak, thin body into a powerful, muscular dynamo in less time than you think. Wow. And you can go from looking like this to looking like this in less time than you think. Start to build your body in less time than you thought possible. Joe Weider's system of bodybuilding. Well, Joe Weider was a well-respected name in bodybuilding. His system of bodybuilding prepares you for feats of strength, athletics, courage, fearlessness, confidence, self-defense, romance, love, and success. Wow. And you get all that for what? 25 cents? Amazing. Yeah, it's send me 25 cents for your book, which is probably a booklet, How to Build a Strong Muscular Body. Which probably, I'm guessing, is a list of exercises that kids could do at home. Push-ups, pull-ups, deep knee bends, things like that. Things that you probably could get for free in another source. But if that's all they're selling, that's fine. I'm much more worried about if they were selling, something for kids to eat or drink. Oh. This is yet another time that Bela Lugosi played a vampire that wasn't Count Dracula. This is from Mark of the Vampire, and that's Luna, the vampire girl. Wow. Oh. This was a famous ad. This was in a lot of comic books. Now, the world's deadliest fighting secrets can be yours. You can learn Dim Mak, the death touch. Okay, just in case you're easily impressed, let me make something clear. This has been debunked. There is no Dim Mak, the death touch. There's no such thing. It's not like, the Vulcan nerve pinch on Star Trek. There's no magic way to put your fingers on someone that's a death touch. This is, a complete scam. At least with the bodybuilding things, that's okay. At least they would give you, information on exercises that you could do and you could build your body up. You're not going to become a ninja out of something in the back of a magazine. Okay, and we reached the end of the magazine. Okay, so I'll tell you, this is way better quality than a lot of the monster magazines from the 1970s and 1960s. The one thing that I will point out is if they're doing a super sinister werewolf issue, one glaring omission is The Werewolf of London from 1935. That would have been important because The Werewolf of London is where we got a lot of the tropes that we associate with a werewolf, like the idea that you become a werewolf by being bitten by the last werewolf, or the idea that it's only the full moon that transforms you, or the idea, there's a whole bunch of these that all come from Werewolf of London, and were not part of the myth of werewolves. In the myths, werewolves were created by magic, and it wasn't a curse that you got like an infection by being bitten by one. So that would have been important to put in here, but overall, this was good. We got to see everything you would want to know about the Wolfman. All 6 of his film appearances, if you include the Abbott and Costello one, were in here. And they did get Paul Naschy's werewolf in there, which I was hoping for. And we got some of the Mexican werewolves, too. So overall, I would say it's a super sinister werewolf issue. Did you have this magazine when you were a kid? Did you have any other issues of Monsters of the Movies? And were they all as good as this one? Well, thanks for spending some time going through this with me. I love looking at these vintage monster magazines. And if you love vintage horror and classic monsters, you should check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. They're available on Amazon.com. I have 6 in print so far, and I'm already working on the next one. Different monsters in different books. I tried very much to capture the spirit and tone of vintage horror films in my books. And my name again is Paul Edwards. My books are the Mourner's Woods books on Amazon.com. Thanks for looking through this magazine with me, and I will see you in Mourner's Woods.